Okay, I guess we've established your views on the medical profession. You know, I'm curious. I don't know the answer to this question. In some of your Twitter posts, you said, and I'm quoting, "You people are all going to spend eternity in hell. Nuremberg 2 first, then hell." What did you mean by that?
Thank you for the question, Senator. I believe that we are in the midst of one of the greatest crimes in human history. We have a product being injected into children 70 plus times over the course of their development that's never been tested against a proper saline placebo. Over that course of that time period, chronic illness in this country has gone from 10% of children having one or more chronic conditions to now more than 50% of children having one or more chronic conditions. Secretary Kennedy, in the hearing that was last week, said that the latest data from the CDC says that 76% of Americans now have one or more chronic conditions. And I believe that lots of these chronic conditions stem from iatrogenic injury. We have 3 million children with autism. Back in 1970, the rate was so low that it was essentially zero. I'm outraged by that, and I think every person in this room should be outraged by that. I don't know how to say it anymore clearly that we need to change course in this country. And I'm terribly disappointed by the medical profession. In the social sciences, there's this term called epistemic capture, which is when the entire knowledge production process becomes captured by one industry, and that's what's happened with science and medicine. And so I think we need to change course, and I think the people who have covered up the autism epidemic and the epidemics of iatrogenic injury should be held to account for their actions.
Are you comparing? I'm holding up a copy of the tweet. I'm sure you recognize it. You people are all going to spend eternity in hell. Nuremberg 2. And in another tweet, you made, I think, fairly clear that you thought Nuremberg 2 referred to executions. And then you said, if we could hit those sorts of numbers, meaning the numbers of executions following the Holocaust, when pharma fails, we would be doing great. I think the inevitable conclusion there is calling for the execution of people.
I think that's overstated. I think you're putting words in my mouth, respectfully, Senator.
I'm asking the question.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. So look, let's put it in the context of COVID. I've already talked about autism. Let's talk about COVID. The state, however you define that, the military, CDC, Tony Fauci, Ralph Barrick at the University of North Carolina, created a weaponized virus, correct? Gain-of-function research. They contracted it out to China, and it caused a pandemic around the world once it was released. The government created a weaponized virus that then got out and caused a global pandemic. When are we going to have accountability for that? I generally don't understand why government officials are allowed to engage in
Rogers, I'm not putting
research.
words in your mouth. I'm just quoting your words.
I would like to have accountability for the COVID era, and I'd like to have accountability for the fact that the CDC has known since 1999 that vaccines cause autism, and they've covered it up for 26 years. How do we begin to have accountability? You want to call it something different? Truth commissions, criminal trials?
So
I would welcome
you're comparing the COVID-19 vaccine to the Holocaust.
Sir,
Well,
respectfully.
I will ask that these posts be entered in the record if there's no objection.
No objection. Okay, let's. I want to move on.
Let me
Can I have a- may I respond?
Let me put up a chart to show why there are people that are horribly frustrated.
I